A drop of blood fell from the sky, impartially low into the man's eyes. He immediately realized that something was wrong and warned his daughter to stay away. In just a few seconds, the man turned into a bloodthirsty zombie. The story begins with a chimpanzee. At the University of Cambridge Animal Research Center, several members of the Zoological Society sneak in, preparing to release chimpanzees in captivity. The staff on duty saw them and rushed to stop them, saying that the chimpanzee was infected with an unknown virus. But the men didn't listen and insisted on releasing the chimpanzees. As soon as the cage was opened, the chimpanzee jumped on one of the women. It opened its mouth and bit down. In just a few seconds, the woman was infected with the virus and turned into a zombie, which began to attack the others in a frenzy. The zombie virus spread rapidly. In less than a month, the whole of England had fallen. 28 days later, Jim woke up in the hospital and found the place empty, and the whole hospital was in shambles. He went to the street and found the same thing outside. The prosperous city becomes a desolate. Everyone seemed to have vanished into thin air. The walls were covered with notices of missing persons. Jim is confused. He only vaguely remembers that he was hospitalized because of a car accident. How come the world has changed since he woke up? What the hell is going on? He walked aimlessly through the streets until he entered a church. He found it full of corpses. At that moment, a priest suddenly pushed open the door and came convulsively towards him. His face was grim, and his movements were stiff. Jim was so scared that he grabbed the bag in his hand and smashed it. But the next second, he came crawling back. Jim rushed to escape, and the zombies in the church chased him out. Their speed was extremely fast. They were about to catch up with Jim. Suddenly, two masked men appeared and stopped the zombies with a Molotov cocktail. Several people quickly fled to the gas station by the supermarket. The zombies covered in the fire were chasing after them. When the zombies ran near the supermarket, they detonated the gas station. Thus, they escaped from the zombie chase. They took Jim to the mall safe house. The rescued Jim was in shock. Through the conversation with the two men, Jim finally understood the truth of the matter. The virus has spread to the whole UK and will mutate in 8 seconds after being bitten. However, they are usually only active at night, so it is best not to go out at night. The next day, the two followed Jim to his home, and his parents were already dead in bed. On the table were uneaten sleeping pills. Apparently, they didn't want to become zombies, so they chose to take the pills to kill themselves. It was about to get dark, so they had to spend the night here, and in the middle of the night, Jim lit a candle. Unbeknownst to them, it was this action that almost cost them their lives. The light attracted a few zombies. They broke through the glass and jumped on Jim. Hearing the commotion, his teammates rushed over to support him. After a fierce battle, 2 zombies were eliminated, but one of the teammates was accidentally bitten. Before he could say a word, Selena slashed him to death. She didn't even blink, and the 2 zombies were not as bad as him. I seriously doubt that they have any deep hatred. They couldn't stay here anymore, so they had to venture outside. As they walked down the road, they saw lights flashing on a building not far away. There should be other survivors. They came downstairs and decided to go up and take a look. But while they were resting, they suddenly saw 2 zombies rushing up from downstairs. They were terrified and ran upstairs as fast as they could. At the critical moment, a man in a riot suit suddenly appeared and told them to go first. He took care of the 2 zombies in a few clicks. It turned out that the light was lit by the father and daughter. The purpose was to find other survivors. Since the outbreak of the virus, they have been living here. Although it was safe, they lacked food and water. They have plastic barrels of different sizes on the rooftop to collect rainwater, but it hasn't rained for a long time. This is not a place to stay for long. But Frank had heard a radio broadcast early on that was repeated every day. The message was that the army had established a safe zone in the suburbs. There was plenty of water and food. After some discussion, the men decided to drive there immediately. They were passing through a tunnel when they were blocked by a junked car. Frank stepped on the gas and rushed past. It is also because of this reckless behavior, one of the tires blew out. But when they were changing the spare tire, Selena saw a group of zombies coming this way. They were too late to use the jack. The 3 of them worked together to lift the car. Hannah quickly changed the spare tire and managed to escape before the zombies came. Then they passed by a supermarket, and they quickly replenished a lot of supplies. It felt good to buy things without spending any money, but the generous Frank still left his bank card. After a long drive, the car soon ran out of gas. They went to a gas station and prepared to refuel the car. Jim encountered a zombie, but he quickly solved it. After so much experience, He has also grown a lot and is no longer afraid of zombies. After a long journey of several days, they finally arrived at their destination, but the place was empty. Apparently, it had been overrun by zombies. Selena suggested leaving immediately, but Frank was reluctant. That's when he saw a crow eating the corpse of a walker. He was furious and kicked the door, but a drop of blood dripped into his eye. Frank realizes he's about to be infected. His daughter sensed her father's abnormality and tried to approach him. Frank pushed her aside so that she wouldn't get involved. In just a few seconds, he turned into a zombie. Selena told Jim to kill Frank, but as he was about to do so, he was knocked down by a soldier who appeared out of nowhere. They follow the soldiers to their base. The colonel in charge looks friendly and shows Jim around the base. The place is really safe. The walls are high, and the plane is all around. They could spot any zombie as soon as it appeared, and they have plenty of firepowers. They also have a walker in the backyard as a pet. Little did they know that they would soon pay the price for this. That night, a large group of zombies came toward the base. All soldiers were standing by, and they quickly wiped out all the zombies with their powerful firepower suppression. When the soldiers came back and saw Selena, they kept molesting her and even touched her directly. Jim tried to come forward to relieve the situation, but was subdued by the other backhand. At that moment, their colonel arrived at the sound to stop them. They thought he was a principled leader, but I didn't expect him to be an animal. The colonel told Jim directly that the purpose of their broadcast was to attract women to them, because the entire barracks was filled with men. They hadn't seen a woman in a long time. Jim immediately realized that they were in a wolf's den and wanted to get ready to leave, but just as he was about to go out, he was knocked to the ground. One soldier still had a shred of humanity but was rewarded with a beating from the others. They were taken to the woods and the soldiers were ready to kill them. However, just as the shots rang out, a soldier nearly wounded his teammate. A clash between the two ensues. Taking advantage of this gap, Jim rushed to escape, but instead of leaving alone, he decides to rescue Selena and Hannah. He triggered the base's alarm and lured the two soldiers out, and he used his geographical advantage to successfully take out the two men. After getting the weapons, Jim went to the base and released the walkers that the colonel had fed, and at this point the soldiers could not wait to change the two women into nice clothes. They were ready to completely unleash their nature. Even the underage Hannah was not going to be spared. But just then, the zombie released by Jim suddenly broke into the door and pounced on one of the soldiers. He was soon infected. The two tried to escape while they could, but the soldiers at the door blocked their way. The zombie virus quickly spreads through the base. Soldiers were infected. Hannah ran into a room. A zombie follows close behind. Hannah escaped by hiding behind a mirror. Jim then hid on the roof and took advantage of the chaos to leap down. He takes out one soldier and works perfectly with the zombies to save the two women, but just as they are about to drive away, the colonel ambushes them in the car. He wounded Jim with one shot. The smart Hannah starts backing up and sends the colonel to the walkers. With the colonel wailing miserably, the three of them drove away. A month later, they were far from the city and arrived at a country house. The zombies here are too hungry to walk. Hannah suddenly rushed into the house and said she heard the sound of a plane. A few people took a pre-made distress signal and quickly laid it on the lawn. Before long, there was a plane coming this way. They were so happy and dancing, although they did not know whether the plane could see. They did not care, because they are strong enough to survive in this post-apocalyptic world by their own power. Sometimes, human nature is scarier than zombies. That's the end of today's story. Remember to subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you next time.